And I just checked, I do believe we're all ready to go. Thank you, everyone.
Very good. Good morning, everybody. I'll call the Bi-State Development Safety and Security meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Simmons,
Present.
Commissioner Winmiller. I believe you're muted.
Sorry, present.
Commissioner Cox,
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Galladay, Commissioner Costello,
Present.
Commissioner Beach,
Here.
Commissioner Gladney, Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Myra, do we have any public comments?
No, Chair, none were submitted for today's meeting.
Very good. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of January 14th, 2020 of the Safety Security open meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Have a roll call.
A voice vote will suffice.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Next, the memorandum of understanding with the City of Normandy, Missouri Police Department for secondary police officer Kevin Scott.
Hank, did we do the minutes from the other meeting? Wasn't there two sets of?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, draft minutes of February the 8th. Thank you. Any questions or comments on those minutes?
I do. I would just like one thing added, if the board's okay with it. It's under agenda item number 5. And it was when the motion was made to go into executive session by Chair Simmons. And, again, we went into executive session, but I argued as hard as I could that I did not think that was proper and that there was nothing on the agenda. I just want that mentioned in there that I wanted to stay in open session because I believe that just having a conversation that's difficult doesn't warrant going into closed session.
Any other comments on that?
I have a question. Are you asking that the minutes be amended to say that
I am, and if I need to do that in the form of a motion, Rose, that's what I'll do. I motion amendment under item number 5 to say, because the conversation is difficult, it's not proper to go into executive session.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a question. Did you vote against going into executive session?
Yes, I did.
You voted against.
Rose, the minutes.
No, I'm sorry. All I'm asking is if you voted against going into executive session.
Yes, and I'm answering you. This is about the minutes. I just want the minutes to say in there, again, a little bit about what the discussion was, because it was pretty lengthy. That's it.
Rose, did that answer your question?
Actually, it didn't, but okay. It says that I'm looking for the section on the vote.
What page is it? Because yeah, if we're going to do an amendment, let's get specific. What page is it on? Is it on page like 9 maybe?
I believe it's just under number. I'm sorry, no, it's not. It's under page 8. Sorry about that. And under number 5, I guess page 8. Maybe I'm looking at my.
It says Chair Simmons requested a motion to allow the committee to move into closed session as permitted under Bi-State Development Policy. A motion to move into executive session was made by Commissioner Beach and seconded by Commissioner Brown.
Yes. And I just want it mentioned in there that I know that Justin and I voted no. That's fine. I just want a simple mention in there that I did not think that it was proper for the discussion to be held in closed session due to, in my view, it wasn't under the actual rules and laws that we're supposed to go into executive session. I just want that in there.
Well, I think your vote of a nay indicates that you didn't want to do that. So I don't know what the changing or amending those minutes would be. You voted no.
Right. I understand, but what I'm saying is on any other agenda item, anytime we have a discussion, there's always mention of reasons. Just, I know that, you might want to cancel what I have to say, but at least have it in the minutes.
Well, if you factually said that and I think we need to give the staff some guidance here. So I don't know if we want to table this. You send an email saying, I'd like this sentence added. I don't know if you just want to basically say it now. I'm not going to jam anybody up if they really did say something in a meeting and they feel compelled it should be in the agenda for some reason. That's fine with me. I just, whoever drafts this needs to be given like a specific sentence that you said. You know what I'm saying? Because if you say that and then they don't know what you really want inserted, it's kind of tough for everybody to vote on it. So
as long as this conversation somehow even makes it into the next minutes, I just want it somewhere in there. That's all.
Okay, so let's let the record of this meeting reflect that Commissioner Cox was opposed to going into the executive meeting based on that date. Is that okay?
That's fine. Absolutely. I just
Okay.
want it somewhere in the record. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's. Do we want to?
Yeah.
Is anybody opposed to that, or are we going to vote on it, or what are we doing?
I believe Commissioner Cox was trying to formulate a motion.
Okay, we'll make a motion, Derek. Let's go.
Okay. I make a motion then, if that's the way you want to do it, that I want it to say in there that I believe moving into executive closed session just because the conversation was difficult was not right.
Is there a
Okay,
second?
I'll second it. Yeah.
Do a roll call vote, please, Myra.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yeah.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Abstain.
Commissioner Brown,
Abstain.
Commissioner Costello,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
No.
Commissioner Beach,
No.
the motion passed. We have 3 yes, 2 no, and 2 abstentions.
So, Myra, this is Commissioner Johnson. I'm sorry, I joined a couple of minutes late, and I was a
I'm
little
sorry.
bit, I was just a little bit confused about the motion. I wonder if was Derek making a motion about what his opinion is, and should we be voting on that? Or did I miss that somehow?
No. Pull up your iPad. He wants on the February 8th, 2021 minutes under page, let's see, it's 9 for me, 9 of 34. He wants item number 5 when the minutes where it discusses when we were, I guess, discussing whether or not to go into closed session. He wants a sentence added to paragraph number 5. Item number 5, I guess it'd be paragraph number 2 underneath there. And then he just stated what he wanted to us to reflect, I guess, his objection to going into closed session and why that was.
This is just the minutes. I just wanted to record what my argument was. I would be all for you guys. I mean, it's just minutes.
So you want the minutes to reflect your opposition to going to a executive session?
I want the minutes to reflect what happens during the meeting, and usually they're always very good.
Commissioner Johnson, you understand that now?
I do.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, can I get your vote on that item?
Yes.
And as stated previously, the motion passed.
Okay, thank you, Myra. Moving on, the next item on the agenda,
Excuse me, we still have to
yes.
approve the minutes as corrected or as amended.
have a motion. To amend,
Yes, I'll move.
have a second?
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second? Roll call, Maya?
A voice vote would suffice.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? No. Next item, the Kevin Scott, the memorandum of understanding with the city of Normandy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners. How are you guys? Want to just kind of give you an overview of this proposal. As you're aware, prior to September of 19, our involvement with secondary off-duty law enforcement was limited. We had a detail on the Sinclair County side, as well as a small detail here in St. Louis of just a few St. Louis City police officers. Since then, as a matter of progression to add more law enforcement presence on the system, we've built out an agreement with the city sheriff's department, which we use them in a number of locations along the Metrolink alignment, as well as St. Louis City police officers who are primarily focused on bus operations. We have certain locations and times per day that we use secondary law enforcement for enhancement. And it's important to have officers in that pool so that we have availability when we need support. This is a voluntary pool. It's an availability pool. The city of Normandy is an accredited law enforcement agency. All of their police officers hold Class A Missouri peace officer licenses. And under the security licensing program in the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County, because they are law enforcement, they will be able to work for us in any of our service areas in Missouri. And so having that pool or the number of off-duty officers bolstered will allow us more flexibility along the Metrolink system in filling some of those locations that we staff daily with secondary officers, in addition to adding more of a law enforcement presence in bus operations as well.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin on this?
So how many officers is this adding then?
I don't know at this point, so it's voluntary. So we have to have an agreement with the police agency that they'll approve their officers to work for us in a secondary format. And then certainly those officers would have to be willing to join the pool. I know there are some that are interested. I don't know how many at this point to give you a specific answer. In addition to the Normandy MOU, I also have an MOU, secondary MOU pending right now with St. Louis County, the same type of agreement. And that MOU, secondary MOU, is under review by their legal department. And I'm hoping to hear something back by the end of this week. So we're working to substantially build that secondary law enforcement pool to satisfy enhanced law enforcement needs along the alignment.
Can I ask what if any are the incentives for like an officer in these jurisdictions that to want to come and work on the Metrolink, or do we have incentives like that make it more people that are going to come and work with us?
Certainly. I mean, I think when you talk about the city of Normandy specifically, or the St. Clair County Sheriffs, the alignment runs through or adjacent to their jurisdiction, so they have a vested interest in it. In addition to that, it gives law enforcement officers an opportunity to work security jobs for very competitive secondary pay as well. And it helps us by adding the law enforcement component on our systems.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Rose.
Kevin, when it comes to the firearms that the police officers will carry on the system, since by-state cannot issue them, we can't issue them ourselves, they will, according to the MOU, they will carry their own firearms issued by their police departments. Is that correct?
Yeah, They will carry firearms that they own, that are certified, that they train with and certified through their police agencies.
Okay. And they will wear their Normandy police uniforms?
No, under security licensing, specifically in St. Louis County and Metropolitan St. Louis, they are able to wear uniforms that depict police on there, but they will not be able to wear the Normandy patch.
Okay.
So they will wear a generic police shirt that identifies them as a police officer. It's the same program that's been in place for years. When I was the police chief in Baldwin, I had 7 officers that work for Spire. Spire has the same program. Quick Trip has the same program. Dillard's at the Galleria has the same program. This is a way to use secondary law enforcement through the licensing program. But because they are law enforcement, because we're entering into an agreement with the Normandy Police Agency, and we're asking the chief for his consent, they would be able to carry those firearms that they're certified with through their departments.
Thank you. And the last question is about jurisdiction. Since they are police officers who are licensed through St. Louis County, will they also be able to, will they have jurisdiction in the city and in Illinois in St. Clair?
They will not in Illinois under the licensing program, law enforcement under the Security Metropolitan Licensing Program. We can use them in this capacity, both in the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County, which really helps us when we talk about adding more law enforcement presence on the bus operations side.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Kevin? If not, we need a motion to approve this, right, Kevin?
Yes, sir, please.
Is there a motion approving this?
So
I'll make-
moved.
Have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Meyer, have a roll call or just a yes or no?
Voice vote's fine.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The next law enforcement service agreement between Bi-State Development and St. Clair County for services provided by St. Clair County, Illinois Sheriff's Department. Kevin, is this you or?
Yes, sir, I can take this one as well.
Okay.
This is simply, now this doesn't pertain to secondary or part-time. This is our primary law enforcement services contract with the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. As you all are aware, the regional task force, police task force, Metrolink task force is comprised as a collaborative with 3 organizations: the St. Louis County Police, the City of St. Louis Metropolitan Police, and the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. The St. Clair County Sheriff's Department agreement is a 1-year agreement. It's a year-to-year agreement. And so that expires on June 30th, and this is a renewal. This renewal does not reflect any cost increase. It's the same service levels. I'm just asking I'm asking for your approval to enter into the new contract. Or
Any questions for Kevin on this contract?
Yeah, I just like to know. So what is the dollar amount with that?
I don't have it in front of me. Barb, would you be able to provide that information?
It's in the board packet. It's $1.7 million.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Commissioner.
Actually, the total
Page
is
26. Yeah, page 26.
Beach moves for approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Beach. Have a second?
second.
Second by Commissioner Windmiller. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Next, update, change to the NIBRS from the UCR crime reporting. Stephen Barry.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I have to apologize that my Zoom wasn't working correctly, but hopefully you can hear me fine through this mechanism.
I can hear you.
Okay, So we have been under a transition from the Uniform Crime Reporting Program into NIBRS. UCR employed a hierarchy rule to recognize only the most serious offenses. And while that process has been in place for over 80 years, NIBRS allows for a great more detail to be submitted along with offenses committed in a single incident. This transition we knew was going to occur, and it takes some time for it to happen. We're happy to say that while we work with St. Louis County, City, and St. Clair, that they have all successfully transitioned into the NIBRS reporting. What we do now is we have to diffuse and define the data that is going to convert over into transit crime reporting. Our reporting is a little bit different than it is through NIBRS, and there is no standardized format typically other than the National Transit Database. So we are making that transition currently. The tricky part, commissioners, that we run into is, of course, 2020 was a very unique year in that it was the last year of using the UCR crime reporting, and also it was a singular year of having the pandemic hit, and then, of course, making a huge impact on our ridership. So when you correlate the data between switching from UCR to NIBRS, and then, of course, correlation of the pandemic, it's difficult to compare numbers between 2020 and 2021. That is ongoing. We're hoping that in the next 2 to 4 weeks that we'll have some of the beginning reports for distribution that will make it to this committee, and we look forward to having that dialogue at that time. Any questions about UCR and NIBRS?
I've got a question, just generally. Just for, I think I've been anticipating some of these stats with the caveat that you're right. I'm sure it's not going to be apples to apples. It might not even be apples to other fruits. But when y'all are kind of looking at, what are the 2 or 3 statistics or metrics that you look at when you're gauging like security performance? So when I get this, I know kind of what to highlight or look for. What are the 2 or 3 most important things to you?
As far as from the performance aspect, Commissioner, what we typically look at is the alignment. We break it down by locations. And what it does is it lists us our most active areas. So along the 46-mile alignment, we do not necessarily break it down in between the states or whatnot. It's all one alignment. So we do, the main statistic that we look at is the activity rate at any given location/zone. That is the most important aspect. And number 2 is what type of activity is occurring in those areas. Is it smoking? Is it what we used to call life issues? Is it based off fare evasion? So first is location, 2 is the type that we look at, and 3 would be the frequency.
Got it. Because once we get our baseline, I'm just trying to, use what information we have, like I'm sure you are as well, to kind of objectively evaluate, things are trending up, things are trending down. And, just like I will here in an hour when operations kind of presents their data and statistics. So I think it'd be helpful if, whenever that rolls out, we kind of get a breakdown and kind of what the significant things to look for are, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. You'll notice that as we switch from UCR to NIBRS, not only from the transit perspective, but from law enforcement, it'll show a considerable change in the type of activities because of the way that the report is allowed to make itself up. On the UCR, you would probably see it coded one time. Under NIBRS, you might see anywhere from 6 to 10 different codings on the same occurrence because it allows for much greater detail.
Okay. I get it now, because I was trying to wrap my head around it. So this new system, new reporting system, this NIBRS, is more detailed.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Considerably.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that item? If not, Stephen, I think you have the annual updates to the working documents.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. On an annual basis, we have a responsibility as part of operating our system. We report out to the FTA and to the State Safety Oversight, our Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, our System Security Plan, and our Emergency Operations Plan. On an annual basis, they go under review, and we conduct the review. We present it to the governing agency for further review, and then they give us the acceptance of the review. Then we take the PTASP and SSP will be presented to the board for approval for that fiscal year. I'd like to report that all of our documents are in order. The PTASP and SSP have been forwarded to the respective agency. For this review, we look forward to having these back with comment, and then we will be presenting those to the board. We're also excited to announce that we are switching to a much more updated emergency operations plan as part of the coordinated effort in the Public Safety Office. We have also included a pandemic annex to the continuity of operations plan, obviously as a lesson learned, but also as a major update according to what happened during the 2021 season. Turning into PTASP and SSP and EOP meets our obligations and furthers our relationship with the SSO and the FTA in our commitment to meeting the comprehensive safety planning that is now required of all transit agencies. Any questions on those three major plans?
So when the plans are finalized for review, we'll receive them, because we don't have any documentation on any of this.
That's correct. They go to the FTA and the SSO first, Commissioner, and then as they get approved from that point, then we bring those copies to the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this item? Hearing none. Stephen, I think you're next also on the training date update.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner. So Bi-State has been afforded an opportunity through grant-funded training to promote trauma-informed and de-escalation training. We currently conduct this training on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. It is open to all Bi-State staff and its contractors. We also include in that human trafficking. We also do safety, security awareness, drug and alcohol as well. We have currently issued over 200 certificates in these training topic areas. We thought that trauma-informed and de-escalation being by far the most important at this time. We also went through the extra effort to make sure that the training is post-certified for our law enforcement partners, so as they join us, they get their continuing education units for training. We have a Truckers Against Trafficking event on June 17th that will have local law enforcement, survivors of human trafficking, subject matter experts. We expect approximately 50 attendees, properly social distanced. We will put more information out as this becomes closer and closer as an event. It's a national event, and that it is one of those important topics that occurs in our region. We also have public safety training going on at the same time. That's through the National Transportation Safety Institute. The subject areas are going to be system security, industrial safety management, and safety management system principles for transit. We look forward to that. It's not very easy to get the National Transit Safety Institute to actually come to the location, but we've been successful in gaining 3 classes for them to be on board, as Bi-State takes this training opportunity very seriously in a time for growth. And lastly, we are working on a standardization of assault reporting across all Bi-State enterprises. They will all be reporting through their respective OCCs and then through Public Safety Dispatch. So we have an opportunity to report the different types of assaults that may be occurring on or around our system. And that way we'll have the ability to report that metric as well. Any questions?
Any questions for that topic? Thanks, Stephen. We appreciate those updates.
You're welcome.
Next, under unscheduled business, the only thing I'd like to, and I know it's, I've got it somewhere, but if we could get an update for the safety committee, I'm interested in what is the monies that are being paid by each county for any of the safety issues that we're doing. I don't know, Toby, if you could arrange to have that sent out to us.
Yes, Chair, I'll be happy to do so.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anybody else have any unscheduled business before we go into the president and CEO report?
I don't know if oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Fred.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
Back on mute, Fred.
Yeah, sorry. If I could go back to the performance indicators, key performance indicators. I think this is what Commissioner Zimmerman was getting at. What I would appreciate our driving to just, you know, in addition to providing whatever data and whatever volume you want, is a finite set, perhaps 5 to 10 key performance indicators when we're confident in the reliability and validity of the data that we're seeing every meeting. These are the most important things on safety and security. We're seeing them with graphics, 1 page, maybe 2 page at most. You know, you would have to work, Talby, with your team to decide what those are, but just to give us a very clear, crisp, quick grasp about the trends we're moving in meeting by meeting, I think that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I agree, Fred. I totally agree. And I'd like to also add, and I don't know when we had this discussion or how we have this discussion, but you know, and that's why I ask about how much the contract was for St. Clair County, because I'm just a believer that the more we can outsource our security to these jurisdictions with actual police officers with firearms, the better. And maybe we move some money around and maybe it takes more money. You know, we have Kevin and Scott on with us right now. And if there's ever a need, say if you think more money would actually help get more officers involved, police officers, I would love to know that. And I think everybody would love to know if that's ever an issue. Is it a money issue? How do we get more police officers onto the system just to clean it up as quick as we can? And then, you know, perhaps in years later, then we can start slowing things down. But that's just my overall thought. And I just didn't know if it was a money issue or what.
Well, and Commissioner Cox, I can tell you, we've done that here in St. Clair County. And I think Kevin and Mr. Roach will tell you that the St. Clair County Transit District early last year took the initiative to put more of the deputies on here. Am I right, Kevin?
That's correct. Not only the primary, secondary positions that we have, the district authorized high visibility blitz. I do agree with you, Commissioner Cox, that my background.
Your audio is messing up a little bit, Kevin.
Yes, it's cut in and out.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not really great with technology. As far as, let me go back to the St. Clair County question. Yes, we had secondary deployments over there at consistent locations. And then the transit district authorized a high visibility blitz with multiple additional locations along with the Metrolink alignment. So we've done that there. We're working to build a secondary pool, and just Commissioner Cox, to your statement, you know what my background is in the enhanced law enforcement presence on the system. That's what I'm working to do. Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And I'd also like to, that's great. And I'd like to ask where our communications are, our radio system. I understand that's still an issue.
So the easiest way to answer that is the Mosman system is in place. That is the bi-state city, if I understand it correctly, the bi-state city Lambert system. So the infrastructure to communicate is there, all right? At some point, well before my time, the police agency, St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis chose to move to their own dispatchers as opposed to operating on the public safety dispatch channel that we have. When they did that, the St. Clair County deputies remained on that channel. So in September of 19, we found that the system was in place. And as a matter of fact, there is an option under the current Mosman setup that we could house law enforcement on the system that's in place now. We have a secondary channel available, which we could even encrypt for them. Okay. So we need to get to that point where we really want, I think everybody wants a one PSAP police dispatch option. And the particulars of how we get there and who's going to dispatch, I think that's logistically what we're trying to work through. But the technology in the system is in place. We could have that now if we wanted to. If that worked out.
Buddy, it's just, we've been talking about this for, I don't know, 2 years. And what will it take to actually get a radio system?
Well, what we've done in the meantime is, because as I mentioned, the St. Clair County deputies are still on our radio daily, on the public safety radio. We found a somewhat of an interesting situation we got here, in that our dispatchers in need of calling either St. Louis County or St. Louis City did not have radio communication with their dispatchers. That was not the matter of operation. And so they were basically calling 911, making contact with those dispatchers with St. Louis County and St. Louis City. And so an opportunity presented itself to enter into a dispatch to dispatch agreement. And we did that. So at least on the St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis side, now under certain circumstances, our dispatchers can use this dispatch to dispatch point-to-point type system to contact those dispatchers directly. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're absolutely correct. What we want to accomplish is a police channel where all of our police officers are working on the same channel and have operational communication on a daily basis.
But to clarify that, Kevin, as we've had many discussions on this, the technology is there and has been there. It's just some logistical issues and some political issues that haven't been worked out yet. Am I correct?
Yes, quite frankly, sir, you're absolutely correct. The technology is there.
Yes, because I frankly get frustrated when I see reports out there saying that, our organization is lacking in providing that. That technology has been there for the inception. And it's just that there are agencies that have not wanted to get back on that system. So, and I applaud you for what you're trying to do to get that done. And I know Mr. Roach has been working on it for the last year and a half or so also, but that's one thing I'd like to keep on the top burner to where we can get that done, because it is it's a very important issue for the men and women out there that we're expecting to provide that safety to our riders.
I'm curious, what is the political issue and why can't we fix it?
Okay, Chair, if you
Yes.
may, can I jump in here? So the first issue was getting all of our police contracts, all of our police partners under contract, okay? None of those contracts were current when we started the renovation of this system. All of those contracts have been presented to this board and ratified by this board over that period of time. We are currently under contract with every single law enforcement agency and have strengthened those relationships. In addition to that, we have engaged in additional contracts so that we could get more fully armed officers on the system. As an example, the Normandy contract that you're presented with today. As another example of that, the city sheriff's department And for instance, as Herb's example of increasing secondaries through Sinclair County. Mr. Scott has been instrumental in moving those contracts. We've worked on them. This board has seen documents and has endorsed those contracts. It represents a huge movement of progress. In addition to that, then there are the different aspects that have to do with a contractual relationship. It is absolutely true that we have not reached the goal of a full dispatch that would connect all three of those police departments. That is true. The highest level hasn't been. However, there's been many interim steps that have improved communications. I do not have the power to force all of the agencies into this. This is an ongoing contractual relationship that's been complicated, and we have been working through in detail. We've made the interim steps and can show vast improvement, but part of that is also the fundamental relationships, the relationships of having our police partners under contract. I would use St. Louis County as an example. We are currently under contract with our largest provider. Then there is the secondary contracts that have to go. So all of these are issues that we are moving through and negotiating. They're complicated and difficult, but we have to bring some of our bureaucratic partners who are also working with the vast other parts of their agencies in radio communications specifically, and we're continuing to work on that.
So there's no specific though political thing, because like Herb said, we have the stuff right now. We could get everybody on the same radio system, but we were said that it's a political reason, and I'm just trying to figure out how we as a board can help take care of that. Is it putting pressure on somebody that's saying, no, we don't want to be on this radio program? What does it take to actually get them all on one? And who's holding it up? Who's holding it up?
Well, so I'm not a specialist in the radio area. So there are. I apologize. I did that. There are complicating factors that also involve, for instance, what are the fraternal order of police? So for instance, if I were to go to an individual chief and have to do with those very complex issues, there are issues associated with, for instance, like a Captain Webb in the example of St. Louis County, or for instance, Lieutenant Peters in the case of St. Clair County, who has to deal with their officers and how they communicate. And these are extremely complicated issues. You asked me specifically, what is the one thing that's holding it up? I guess my answer would be, is there isn't one thing. It is a complicated and layered relationship. Some issues I am trying to solve, some I have not. One of the ways that we can solve this is we can gain the confidence of these partners and be under contract, as an example. Of course, our partners would be reluctant to change and move to a radio system if we didn't have them under contract and have months of progress and months of contractual understanding under our belt. What I'm telling you is that we do have that right now, despite some comments to the contrary. We are under contract with all of our police departments with very, very solid relationships. That is very, very different than 2 years ago. And what my hope is that now that we've built these relationships, that then we can move the next step, move on some of these issues, come to the table with capital and an understanding of what makes sense from a radio perspective. What I have found is that most of our police partners have been amenable to discussing that, but it is true, we haven't landed the deal yet. I know that Kevin has been working very hard on it, and we have been making the improvements along the way. But part of this is a relationship issue, and I just couldn't say that it comes to one singular issue. It does not.
And I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, we all get there's been progress being made. I'm sure this is way more complicated than how we're somewhat portraying it, but this would help security on our system if the radio was all being used. That right? We right? Okay.
Yes,
So, and
that's
I know you and Kevin are working on it, but I guess it's just, I guess I'll never understand it. But if there's anything the board can do to help you or Kevin achieve this, please let us know, because I'm willing to do it. We need to take a vote. We need to send a letter. Anything that we can do to help. If this will help with security, I'll do it. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Anybody else have anything on that topic? Okay, hearing none. Toby, your report?
Very good. Thank you, everybody. So I want to note that Mr. Scott's additional tours are still ongoing, and I invite members to attend. I know most of you have attended those. They've been going really wonderfully. It shows the tremendous progress that both Mr. Scott and Mr. Berry have made. As a matter of fact, I want to note that under the PSAP program, we have actually been nominated by MoDOT and IDOT jointly to receive award on our pandemic preparedness. This is, for instance, a tangible sign of the hard work that both of those gentlemen have been doing. I also attended a meeting of the East-West Gateway Coordinating Council and fielded several follow-up questions related to the security and the compact. I wanted to note to you that we have prepared a draft memorandum which will be presented at the April 23rd memo under your direction, having to do with revisions, potential revisions to the compact in a full look at the entire document. I anticipate the board probably forming an ad hoc committee in regards to that. And so that will be delivered to you on the 23rd. Coordination continues through the Joint Task Force. I asked, for instance, for Captain Webb to attend our meeting today, and she is on the Zoom. As an example, and to specifically respond to Commissioner Postello's question and Cox Simmons as well, we do have joint task force data that Captain Webb puts out. And as a matter of fact, we just received the March fundamental data metrics that will go out. I will follow up with the board and send those out via email today. And probably what's best, if the chair is amenable in future meetings, maybe we could ask Captain Webb to comment on this. I invited her to it, and she is on the Zoom right now in attendance, and I really appreciate that and the hard work that she's doing. This is a strong partner, and we're going to be moving into, for instance, the budget cycle and looking at those aspects of increasing force, really as increasing full police officers on the system. That is a fundamental philosophy of the new security program. So it means that strengthening the partnerships with, for instance, Captain Webb and the Joint Task Force so that we have secondary officers on the system is an absolute key element. It's very important that we have that highest level of policing and that highest level of policing that is associated with a rigorous security program. That is in evidence and it is going on. I want to thank Captain Webb for her attendance today. I'm very sorry that it was late to the program here, but that concludes my report. Thank you, Chair Simmons.
Very good. Does the captain want to address anything, Toby? I know I get the email from you earlier. If she's got anything, I'm sure the board may be interested in hearing a little short report from her.
Captain, do you mind?
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you all. So with regard to the statistical data and the performance matrix, we've seen a decrease in our Part 1 crimes. The NIBRS situation is definitely very arduous with regard to our reporting. But with regard to those Part 1 crimes decreasing, we've seen an increase from our proactivity. Obviously, our officers have been out there very much now that COVID, the restrictions are lifting. We're seeing more individuals on our LRV system, and our officers are present. We're doing a really good job there. And I would love to take any questions with regard to obviously radio issues or any other questions that you all might have for the task force.
Any commissioner have any questions for the captain? Captain, can you tell me and the commissioners how many officers on a daily basis that are riding the system?
Yes, sir. So actually, technically today, I actually have over 14 officers riding today, just in St. Louis County. And then St. Louis City obviously has a variety. It goes from 3 to 4 per day, sometimes 5. Today, for instance, though, just so you know, it's our opening day game here in St. Louis. So we've asked that we have more of our officers present for that particular event.
Very good.
Captain, could you tell us what you consider to be your greatest challenge at this moment?
Radio communication.
Thanks.
Any other questions for the captain? Captain, we really appreciate you taking time to join us today. And if there's anything that we can ever assist you with, please reach out to Kevin or Talby, and they'll relay that to the safety committee here. And we're here to support any way we can.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Okay. Talby, any other, you said that was the end of your report? Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, all done.
Okay. There's no need to do an executive session, I don't believe. Am I correct?
Not unless there are any proposed changes to the minutes.
No, and I didn't hear any that we didn't talk about already. So at this time, no other business come before the security committee. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, you need to approve those executive committee minutes.
Oh, yeah, we have to have an approval for that. Have a motion?
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
Rose, did you second that?
I did.
Okay. All in favor?
We'll need a roll call.
Roll call.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Costello,
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Beach.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hello?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Beach.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hello? Aye. Commissioner Johnson,
Yeah.
I think we got something got crosswired there. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Aye. Everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Commissioners, so we're going to move into the Operations Committee now. Brenda, I think we're in good shape. Are we ready to go?
We are, thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. I'll call the Operations Committee meeting to order on Thursday, April 8th, 2021. Can I have a roll call, please, Myra?
Commissioner Winmiller,
Present.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commissioner Cox, Commissioner Galladay, Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Beach,
Here.
Commissioner Simmons,
Here.
Commissioner Costello, Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Gladney.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards submitted?
No, Chair, none were submitted.
Thank you. I call for an approval of a motion to approve the minutes of the January 22nd, 2021 Operations Committee open meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Under item number 5, contract modification, the bi-state signage replacement project. I would ask Jessica Mefford-Miller for comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd actually like to ask Jessica Gershman, our Assistant Executive Director for Planning and System Development, to provide the board with an update on our bus stop signage project, including this contract extension. Jessica?
Thanks, Jessica, and good morning, Commissioners. So this morning I'm presenting for the Operations Committee's acceptance and submission to the full board for approval this request to modify the current contract with the Harlan Company as they complete Metro's bus stop replacement project. The contract modification would increase the project funding by $148,177.42, and the period of performance would increase until June 30th of this year in order to complete the installation of new bus stop signage at all Missouri Metro bus stops. About 65% of Metro's system-wide boardings occur on Metrobus. So this roughly 2/3 proportion holds true for current ridership as well as pre-pandemic boardings. And so for a majority of our customers, that neighborhood bus stop is truly their front door to our system. And so this bus stop replacement project has been a really critical way to improve communication with our daily riders. The new signage is highly visible, it's ADA compliant, and it provides a hierarchy of information for customers who are awaiting their bus and approaching it from afar. So as of the beginning of April, this project is about 90% complete, with 400 bus stops remaining for installation. And with the board's approval, this contract modification would allow Harlan to complete the project this spring. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please, is this a roll call vote?
No, just a voice vote.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Under item number 6, there's the item single bid track systems update. Again, I would ask Jessica and Darren Curry for comments, please.
Good morning again, Commissioners. In Mr. Curry's absence today, I'll provide you with an update on this track system upgrade project. We're here before you today to request that the Operations Committee consider for advancement to the Board of Commissioners the award of a track system upgrade project in the amount of $4.349 million to RailWorks. This project, as is outlined in the associated white paper, which includes photos, will accomplish upgrades to some of our aging Metrolink right-of-way infrastructure, including 2 grade crossings and 2 restraining rail curves. The grade crossings and the restraining rails are part of the original alignment, so they're nearing 30 years old, and their asset condition ratings require that they be replaced very soon. The grade crossings are simply grade crossings at our Ewing operating facility and one other operating facility, where we would be replacing the rails, the matting, the ballast, as well as replacing wood ties with concrete ties. And the same is also true for the restraining rail replacements. We have restraining rails in 2 locations. One is on the Broadway curve as you depart Stadium Station and approach Civic Center, and then the other, and you make a hard right, if you're heading west. And then the other is from Civic Center to Union Station, where we're making a hard left. These restraining rails are necessary to control train movements on these tight turning radii. We did let a competitive procurement. We did have just one responsive bidder, and that was Railworks. This work is typically pretty narrow in scope. There aren't a great deal of firms out there who perform this work. There's no local presence, so mobilization costs are sometimes high. And in terms of rail infrastructure projects, at $4.34 million, this is a relatively small contract. And so some of the potential bidders that we contacted elected not to submit bids for those reasons. Are there any questions I may answer about the State of Good Repair project or the contract itself?
Yes, Jessica, so there was only one bid that was sent out or returned, or how many was sent out, applications?
So we only received one responsive bid, Commissioner Simmons. We did advertise this on iSupplier, and we did receive responses when we inquired about non-responsiveness from two different vendors, Musselman and Iron Horse. Musselman chose not to submit a bid because of changes within their management structure. Iron Horse is a firm that's actually located in Southern Illinois. They elected not to because they did not have the personnel resources available to meet our needs.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Jessica, I thought I heard you say that there were no firms with local presence, with a local presence that bid. But
yeah, even Iron Horse, rather, Commissioner, it's not within the St. Louis metropolitan region. They are deeper in Southern Illinois.
What about Railworks, who's getting the contract?
You know, Commissioner, I'm not sure where Railworks is actually located out of. I could find that information out and reply to the committee.
The only reason I ask is because in the report, it says that they do have a local presence.
Yeah, they'll likely be bringing in some labor for the work, Commissioner, and we could, in our conversations with Railworks, provide you a breakdown of what exactly that looks like.
Yeah, I guess my concern is more that, you know, in your report, you indicate that there are fewer and fewer companies that are doing this kind of work. And so it's becoming single source kind of contracts. And should we be concerned about that as a board? And I just want to make sure that the public understands when we let a contract like this, and you know, there was very few people that responded, companies that responded, and you know, $4.5 million doesn't sound like a lot for a rail project, but obviously to the public it does. So I want to make sure that we're just being very careful about being transparent about the fact that there aren't very many organizations that actually engage in this kind of work.
You know, what I'd like to do, Chairwoman Miller, is provide the board with a summary of potential firms who work in this area. It's relevant not just for this project, but in the coming years, we will have many more rail system upgrade projects as we're moving through improving the asset conditions of phase one of the Metrolink alignment. So we'd be happy to provide that to you.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Just a quick clarification. I'm familiar with Iron Horse from working with them on a couple projects 15, 20 years ago. They're in Baldwin, Illinois, south of New Athens. So just inside Randolph County. So I really don't consider them deep Southern Illinois, but they are part of the region, but I think they're very busy and they handle a lot of bigger projects. So.
Yes, and we have ongoing contracts, Commissioner Beach, with Ironworks. So it is just this particular contract that they elected not to compete for.
I just want to clarify they are part of what's considered the St. Louis region.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And Jessica, one final question for me. This contractor, are these union scale wages? I mean, is this done through the unions, or do you know that?
I don't know that, Commissioner. I can find out about Railworks wage rates and union composition and include that in that summary.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
So, Chair, if you will, I do know that Railworks does pay on union scale. We do have a lot of historic contracts with Railworks over the years. They've worked throughout the alignment, and their experience is deep. and they are a union firm and have that local presence. For instance, even though it is a national company, when they mobilize on these type projects, it ends up being mostly local labor that is involved. RailWorks is no exception to that rule, but it is also true that this is a very specialized work, and they are interested in the much larger projects. It's one of the reasons why actually that both Jessica and under Darren Curry's leadership, packaging together multiple pieces normally gives us a better bid environment. But we're still a little short on this one, to be honest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Jessica. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a sole source contract authorization for professional engineering services, Phase 1 engineering and design support services, rehab of the Metrolink cross-county extension tunnels and stations. And this will be, again, Jessica and Chris Paler, please.
I'd like to ask Chris to address this design contract.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning. This paper seeks approval for a sole source contract for professional services, engineering services related to the rehab of two tunnels, as was mentioned on the cross-county alignment. The two tunnels specifically run along Forest Park Parkway. The first runs under Skinker and the second runs under Big Bend all the way to Forsyth. Shortly after these tunnels were constructed, we had issues with leaks, and we entered into a litigation effort. And during that time, a firm called Gall-Ziegler was contracted to help assess the leaking issues as well as the potential repairs. They're an international firm that specializes in tunnels, so they did a lot of work. Again, primarily doing a conditions assessment of the tunnels, finding all the leaks and determining the best way to repair these, and then developing cost estimates for those efforts. So their last set of plans they put together was in 2014. We now have funds gathered together to start doing some of the repairs to the tunnels. So we need to get those plans updated. And that's where this paper comes in, to basically get Gall-Ziegler back under contract, go out and do another conditions assessment just to make sure or see where, if any leaks have increased, if there are new leaks, or any of the conditions have changed significantly. And this involves a lot of specific inspection by the engineers, as well as scanning of the tunnels. And this work is done typically at night when obviously the trains aren't running and they can run on the rail. And so the result of this will be an updated assessment. They'll come up with some proposed repair methodologies, and then we'll kind of prioritize all of the issues and figure out how far we can go, how many repairs we can do with the budget that we have. And we'll take that and move into final design from there. So this contract is $251,000, which includes a contingency. And again, we seek approval of this committee to move to the full board for approval. Any questions?
So Chris, I noticed in your comments that these leaks started really early after operation of the blue line.
Correct.
And we sought and I guess previous litigation was brought against, I don't know who. Did we actually win in that case?
Barb?
If I may, it was settled amicably between the parties.
Thank you. Any other questions about the actual contract itself or anything else? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We'll move on to Item number 8, contract award for the cleaning of rail cars at Missouri and Illinois Metrolink maintenance facilities amendments. And Jessica, I think you're up again.
I am. Good morning again, Commissioners. We have before you for consideration and a request that you approve to the full board a 3-year contract with MERS Goodwill for cleaning of our light rail vehicles at both the Ewing and 29th Street Metrolink operations facilities. This contract would not exceed $2,360,844. This was a competitive procurement. We did have 4 responsive vendors, and based on cost and technical merit, the committee selected MERS Goodwill and was able to negotiate a contract cost that is in line with the independent cost estimate for these services. Now, rail car cleaning and bus cleaning and van cleaning is a behind the scenes but very important part of our overall vehicle maintenance program, and it is essential for delivering excellent customer experiences. In fact, we have made changes to our organizational structure and focus over the last 18 months within vehicle maintenance to improve the cleaning of our vehicles. This began before the COVID-19 pandemic, but our attention to disinfecting and cleaning in the last year has allowed us to make some improvements still upon those practices. Are there any questions I can answer regarding this contract or rail car cleaning?
Thanks, Jessica. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Item number 9, the amendments to Chapter 40, Real Property Economic Development and Collective Board Policies of the Bi-State Development Agency of the Missouri-Illinois Metropolitan District. And this is John Langa. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Good morning. Quickly, this item amends Board Policy Chapter 40 to streamline board and staff real estate processes. With the changes, the board would still approve excess property declarations along with disposition approvals for properties valued over $250,000. That does not change in this. However, with the changes, staff, not the board, would make excess property declarations for properties less than $250,000 along with the disposition approvals. Staff already makes those approvals at that amount. Finally, the annual excess property report for the board will become an informational agenda item, not an approval item. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
Any questions for John?
So under the current situation, the staff makes the under the 250,000 is what you're saying, John?
Yes, that's correct. Up to $100,000, the Vice President for Economic Development would do that. Up to $250,000, the President and CEO for Bi-State would do that. Anything over $250,000, that the board for Bi-State would do that.
And that's the way it's always been?
No, it's been that the board, the Bi-State board would always make that declaration regardless of the amount of the property. And this would actually change it to the declaration. If it's over $250,000, would keep at the board level. If it's between the $100,000 and the $250,000, the president and CEO would make that declaration along with the disposition approval, which they already can. And then if it's under $100,000, the Vice President for Economic Development would do the same.
If I could, Chairwoman Miller.
Sure.
So Herb, this is an effort to try to not, we often have very small wedges of property that under our current rules, we have to give you a report on every single one of them. So we're just trying to condense things a little better so that we're using board time a little bit more effectively. So I asked John to come to a recommendation of what would be the threshold amounts, and that's what's before you today. Current policy, unless you all accept this, is that we have to bring almost every single real estate property to you. Of course, that's a very, very big book. And it can really bog down board consideration. So we came to you with this recommendation of a staged plan up to 100, as John mentioned, under his signature, and up to 250 under mine. And then above that would still require a board. So just trying to be a little bit more efficient is really the summary.
So would the board have prior knowledge before that transaction would be approved by you?
Sure. So I would normally, whenever I would do something like that, as I've done in just general practice, I leave that in my board briefings. I think as I've shown over time, that what I do is I do it on an informational basis, but we don't go through the whole legal ramifications of a full board vote for very small properties. So I'm happy to continue to inform the board, but the actual transaction would not have to be voted on. We wouldn't have to go through a subcommittee and a full board meeting, for instance, a smaller wedge of property. I think it does make sense that we still include these in our overall, and we have an annual book of excess property that you do get, which is a big binder of excess property, just to be sure we've done that disclosure, and we would continue to do that from an informational purpose.
So to follow up on that, John and Talby, on the annual surplus review, the board would receive it as an informational item, but we would not approve it.
That's correct. And the reason for that is the board would have already during the year made the approvals for anything over 250,000. And underneath that, those approvals would have been made at the president, CEO, or vice president of economic development level.
Thanks for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure that anything at 250 or above, we actually approved, and that's what I'm hearing. So,
yes.
Any other questions?
My only concern is, Rose, is that, I don't want to be scrutinized by the public saying that there was a piece of ground that was under our ownership that was sold to somebody that we didn't have knowledge of, and then we're getting asked those questions. And yeah, we can always throw it back on John or Talby, but I'm just a little skeptical on that, those type of transactions not coming in front of the board. That's just my opinion.
So Herb, is that comment meant, so right now we don't approve things under 100,000. Is it that you think we should approve everything that goes into surplus property, or I'm trying to get at your concern?
Yeah, I think that it needs to be a board approval. And I know Talby's saying it's for a time, but I think there's a lot of other things we could save our time on, as opposed to something where we need to have knowledge of when we're selling off property that we have the ownership of. I just think that I would want to know what property that is. I mean, we had a situation a year ago on some property over here in Illinois that was being talked about, and I didn't know about it until the last minute. And I just don't want to be caught like that.
Thank you.
It's really, the question is where we draw the line in the sand, really, Chair and Commissioner Simmons. And we just made an attempt to try to draw that line at what we thought logically made sense. And of course, it would be included in a full book. It's just, we have had circumstances where we've had to come to the board on very small wedges of property, which have also slowed things down. Because then we had to wait for board approval on a small wedge having to do with a utility type transaction, or a small wedge associated with a municipal interest, which 99 times out of 100, it's very rare that it's a private user. As a matter of fact, maybe one of the provisions could be that unless it were a private entity, in which case we could add a rule that said if it were a private concern, we would always bring it to the board, okay? Because often what happens is the buyer or transferee is for instance, another municipality or a utility. That's much more common in what we're dealing with here. And we end up having an exhaustive discussion about that, and it tends to be standard operating procedure. I'm just trying to find what is efficient. So maybe if I would suggest, Chair Simmons, to allay your concerns, we would make an exception within these rules where if it were a private interest, that no matter what, we came to the board, whether it be a $25,000 dollar transaction or something of that nature. And that would still allow us to be a little bit more efficient as far as the use of time and in transactions. Would that be an acceptable change?
My recommendation is that this be tabled and we discuss this a little bit further, because I can just see a situation where there's a piece of property that you may feel that is beneficial to get rid of, but we as commissioners may have other information from the public that that piece of property could be used for something else. And I think as our duties, we need to be able to investigate that, as opposed to coming back and saying, well, the CEO had the right to do that, but that property should have been used for something else. So that would be my recommendation. We table it and talk about it.
Okay.
Herb, are you putting that in the form of a motion?
I can make a motion that we table this item for further discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's now on the table for discussion. I would say I'm okay with tabling this. But I think it's important. I think Talby makes a good distinction. Having some experience in this, I don't. Let me ask a question, John. How many transactions related to property and surplus property do you think the agency deals with every year? Give me a ballpark figure.
A dozen, and of those, maybe 2 would be the private sort being discussed. One, the North County Transit Center, which was before the board a few months ago, that would most likely be sold if it sells to a private source. Other projects, for instance, the DeBoliver project, that was a private source. A lot of these are just an easement to MoDOT, MSD, things like that, back and forth. Another example would be Brentwood, which is a public, the city of, in conjunction with their parks projects. So it's about 12, probably 85% of the public type of transactions.
So let me clarify. You're saying that 10 to 12 of these are private sales, and the rest are that total?
There's about 12 total. 10 of those are the public, and then maybe about 2 are the private.
I don't think that that's necessarily excessive for us to see, if we could just be more efficient in how we get to it. So other questions or comments from the board on Commissioner Simmons' motion?
I just want to say, I see both sides here. Due to my past experience, I recently was contacted by some commercial realtors over here on the Illinois side about an easement. A company was hoping to acquire a manufacturing plant along the Metrolink alignment in Belleville on Florida Avenue, the old Rojo facility. And I contacted Mr. Langen's staff about this easement issue, and it was very quick and smooth, and they accommodated the request. That's not something I would want to wait a month or two to bring before this entity. I understand what Herb is saying on larger issues, and maybe by tabling it for the next month or so, we can work out some kind of a solution to make all sides happy, but it doesn't sound like it's a major issue overall. Just my opinion.
Thank you.
Someone that's been involved with things like this for many years.
Any other questions or comments? Well, there's a motion and a second on the table. So I would ask for a vote on tabling this issue. I'm sorry, could you read the motion, please, Barb or Myra?
I have down a motion to defer this item for further discussion.
Thank you. So I would ask for a vote on that. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yeah.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
The motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take that up at the next meeting. Item number 10, that's where we are. The MOA with St. Louis County regarding compliance with COVID-19 vaccination dispensing guidelines. I would ask Jessica for comments.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have before you for consideration a memorandum of agreement with St. Louis County for guidelines for mass prophylaxis distribution. This would be an amendment to the January 14th memorandum of agreement that this board authorized by state execute with St. Louis County. We are now working with St. Louis County to prepare for vaccine distribution on Metro property to by state employees later this month. This would be our second series of employee vaccination opportunities following those that occurred in February and March at our Illinois bus facility in partnership with the East Side Health District. We are working very hard to encourage and even incentivize vaccination amongst all bi-state employees. At present, approximately 40% of our team members have vaccinated through bi-state or have notified us that they have vaccinated through a third party. We aim to increase that number. We are working very closely with Cigna, our health insurance provider. Next week, we'll be hosting a town hall meeting for all bi-state team members with a Cigna physician to address frequent vaccine hesitations and concerns. We have been sharing factual information with our team, as well as making them aware of opportunities to receive vaccines within the community outside of bi-state development. Such an event is actually happening today at the Dome here in downtown St. Louis, and our team members have been notified that they are eligible to receive vaccination on site. We're hopeful based on our past experiences with programs like our health screening and our flu shots that providing vaccination opportunities this series without appointment at our operating facilities in Missouri will make it very convenient and will encourage our team members to vaccinate. We also know that those early adopters have now all received their second vaccines and they are out. We are talking about it, and vaccination is a key topic in staff conversations and peer-to-peer conversations. So I'm hopeful that the second wave of vaccine opportunities is going to help us move that percentage up of our total team members vaccinated. And of course, this is an essential part of our COVID mitigation and recovery program. It is the most important and impactful thing that we can deliver to our team to keep them and our customers safer. Any questions about this MOA or our COVID mitigation strategies and vaccination program?
Jessica, under the funding source, it says funding for the administration and delivery costs incurred associated with the delivery of the COVID-19 vaccine would be supported by the CARES funding. Do we know what that cost is?
Commissioner Simmons, we have an on-call contract that we have established with Bright Star Care for this purpose. And so the cost, it's a unit cost. The cost is going to depend on the number of events in the span of service, so how many personnel hours we actually have. So bi-state development staff would be doing the coordination and the communication. Bright Star Care would be providing the actual vaccine administration and screening.
So when Eastside provided the vaccine over here in Illinois, was they compensated?
No, we did not, bi-state development did not incur any costs for the program that was supported by Eastside Health District and the Illinois National Guard.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm glad to see this is moving forward. Thanks very much for the report on that. It's a good thing. Motion is needed to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
You. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. The next item is item 11, the operations report from Jessica.
Let me unmute myself. Sorry about that. So my hope for the time for our operations report is that we would have a conversation about approaches to moving through service recovery and even capital program recovery beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Well, give me just a moment here. There we go. So the path to recovery, I want to save time for focusing on servicing capital programs, as we've talked pretty extensively in this forum about our COVID-19 mitigation strategies, including that vaccination program. And you have information in your board packet about the introduction of microbe shield cleaning, which enabled some of that service recovery that happened back in March. Our goals are first, of course, to keep our employees and team members safer. And as with everything we do, we are focused on ensuring service delivery and capital program delivery is equitable. This is especially important as we have seen a very pronounced difference in our service demand over the last 14 months or so during our pandemic operations. And I'll talk just a little bit about that. We are moving through service stabilization. And in fact, with the March 15th, 2021 Metro bus service change, we are mostly there with what we see as the service package that we're going to offer for the foreseeable future. And then finally, customer-focused investments must play a major role in redefining the system that we operate, the service and the programs that we offer, because it is essential that we attract our customers back to the system and new customers so that the service that we provide is sustainable and meaningful. So just a little bit on Ridership Outlook. We've stabilized at about 50% of our pre-pandemic ridership, and that's system-wide. It varies just a little bit between Metrobus and Metrolink, and call ride demand is still hovering at about 90% our pre-pandemic demand. We have conducted series of customer surveys throughout the pandemic and will again soon as we try to fully emerge from our pandemic operations. But one of those points that I want to share with you is there's a stark contrast in terms of racial equity between our customers who were using our service prior to COVID and after COVID. And in fact, our African-American customers were twice as likely as our Caucasian customers to experience no reduction in the frequency with which they were using Metro services during COVID pandemic operations. And so as we have restored service over the last 12 months, we have been focused on trying to preserve access to the core routes in our system, to major employment centers and other essential destinations from trip start to trip finish. We've been working closely with major employers, hospitals, healthcare institutions, a lot of retail and transshipment locations. I would also ask this Board of Commissioners that in your professional and personal circles, conversations regarding needs today or needs as we emerge from the pandemic, because we know economic activity is going to look different than it did pre-COVID. Please share those with us so that we can make contacts with businesses or other institutions to ensure that we are meeting their needs. We are endeavoring to be very communicative and nimble in our recovery approach. Now we know as we're all following national economic outlooks, we know that economic recovery will be somewhat gradual, and we know that travel demand is altered, perhaps irrevocably in some ways, but we are working to try and provide service that is meaningful, that is efficient, and we're responding very quickly. We have made more service changes in the last 12 months than we have in most 3-year periods over the last 15 years. And so I commend staff for their quick work. Our focus through our Metrolink and Metrobus operations, as well as some of those innovative mobility solutions that we've implemented, is to preserve that core ridership. In other words, not to lose customers. We know that it's far easier and less expensive for us to maintain our customers and reduce what we call this churn of customers leaving the system than it is to attract new ones. We're equally focused, though, on trying to attract back those infrequent riders or those regular riders who are not using the system often at this time. And then finally, we're working to attract new riders to our system through both service and capital programs and communication and marketing. Now, when we look at our service stabilization timeline, on March 15th, we had a major service change. We increased service or made adjustments to schedules for 43 Metrobus routes across Missouri and Illinois. Right now, we're hovering at just a little less than 90% of pre-COVID Metrobus service, and we are at 94% of pre-COVID Metrolink service. When we last came together, Commissioner Beach, you had a question about service level in Missouri and Illinois in the context of our FY22 operating budget. So our target for our FY22 service level for Illinois Metrobus would be to operate service at about 92% of pre-pandemic levels and about 78% of pre-pandemic levels on Metrobus. I would note, though, that we do have operational funding included in our Missouri operating budget that is supporting our innovative mobility solutions, including Lyft and Via. That's not reflected in that 78% number. Our continued focus this past year and looking ahead remains consistent with some of those principles that we focused on through Metro Reimagined. We are focused on creating and maintaining a core network of frequent routes where customers have predictable and reliable service, and we are able to capture not only journey to work trips, but also discretionary trips, which actually represent the lion's share of trip making across the St. Louis region. So it's very important that we think about utilizing Metro Transit for all trip purposes. We are also continuing to prioritize those essential trips, though, as I mentioned, and much of that has been focused on the journey to work for essential workers. But as we move beyond pandemic recovery, we're preserving that journey to work for essential worker focus and really trying to fill in the margins with some of these other non-essential trips. In March, and then we'll see this in June and again in late August, we will be adding to our evening and weekend service with additional frequency, trying to capture back some of those discretionary trips. In addition to Metrobus and Metrolink, and commissioners, I'd like to have a conversation, so feel free to interrupt me. I'm sharing a lot of information with you this morning. We're continuing to evaluate the ways we provide mobility, ensuring that we are providing service that is fast, reliable, competitive, and meets the needs of our customers today and tomorrow. So we're testing these new models. We still have 2 programs in place, which are at the moment in pilot phase, and we're moving toward delivering more permanent solutions. One is Via Metro STL. That's our micro transit service that we're operating in Greater North St. Louis County and in South St. Louis County in the Fenton and Valley Park community. In North County, we framed this as late night service that's and early morning that is supplemental to Metrobus service. We are now working with Via to expand the geography of that market south of Interstate 270, where we think we can capture a pretty sizable residential market, and then really isolating the service to just later night and early morning and doing away with the all night service. After all, we don't have any Metrobus or Metrolink service to connect our customers to after 1 a.m. and really before 4 a.m. So we'll just focus on those shoulder periods. Our current contract with Via would end for year 1 this June. So right now we're evaluating our extension years, which are already built into that contract. And one of the things we're very excited about is a contract we have already in place with VIA in Transit app. And next month, our customers will be able to plan their fixed route trip and book their VIA trip via the Transit app in one seamless application. This is part of our desire to deliver technology solutions to our customers that make using transit easy and that reduce barriers to using the service. We aren't yet at a point where we have a single plan, book, pay platform, but we are heading that direction in the not distant future. So this offers the plan and book option to our customers. Customers also can pay for their fixed route service only right now using our mobile application directly from a link within the Transit app. So we are well underway there. And then finally, we continue to operate service with Lyft. When we began service with Lyft in October 2019, it was a first last mile solution that was intended to bridge gaps left by retracting some of our Metrobus service footprint when we launched Metro Reimagine. We're still doing that, but Lyft has also helped us in our COVID response and recovery over the last year in terms of being very nimble and providing quick connections in relatively short order without needing to change a bus route. And that's especially important for allowing us to respond to small markets. We operate mass transit. We are most effective and efficient where we carry large volumes of people over single routes. But in order to capture large volumes, we also have to be responsive to the individual customer or the individual business or academic institution. Lyft is helping us do that. And then finally, I want to give you an update on some of our capital programs that you're going to see as a board over the next couple of months. We have launched a very aggressive customer-focused capital campaign that's included in the FY22 through 24 budget that this board saw last month. A number of those investments are focused on our Metrolink system. As I mentioned in the paper earlier, our first phase system is approaching 30 years and the condition of those assets needs to be improved so that we can maintain the system in a state of good repair. So we've got a number of very exciting Metrolink projects afoot, including the upgrade and modernization of our light rail vehicles, station level investments, again, that are included in that budget, whether that's a wholesale station redesign, as it is for some stations, or significant improvements to the condition of the station, things like parking lots and platforms, windscreen, lighting, and customer amenities and information. We are endeavoring to balance our needs to maintain our system in a state of good repair while delivering customer-focused investments in relatively short order. We are moving forward pretty rapidly with our clean energy programs, and this spring we are so excited to be launching our battery electric bus program. We've completed our infrastructure investments at our Brentwood Metro bus facility. We have received all 14 60-foot battery electric articulated buses from New Flyer. We have received 2 of 4 40-foot battery electric buses from Gillig. And we're working with our contractors right now to complete installation and testing of our charging equipment at our Broadway and Taylor Transit Center that's going to support those 60-foot buses. We're looking now to incorporate battery electric technology into our fleet replacement strategy moving forward. We're also evaluating our infrastructure requirements to support that burgeoning battery electric fleet. And we're identifying opportunities to bring cleaner energy into powering our operating facilities and into the future, potentially our Metrolink traction power. It's a very exciting program. With fare collection, I mentioned, we've talked about this. We had a deep conversation in October 2020, and we have an active procurement going on right now for the first wave of our next generation fare collection systems. That procurement is for our foundational electronic faring system and our Metrolink station validators. All of our goals with our fare collection program, including pricing and structure and systems, are aimed to deliver customer-focused investments that make it convenient for customers to pay fare and also allow us to have opportunities to establish pass and sales programs that exceed that which we've been able to offer in the past. This commission will see that fare collection contract for approval later this spring. And then with respect to Metrobus, we're also focusing on Metrobus enhancements. We had a series of station level investments focused on our transit centers in the years between 2015 and 2018. We introduced the Civic Center and North County Transit Centers that offer an excellent amenity package. And now we are focusing on the nexus between Metrobus and the communities we serve. I would remind us that every day, most Metro Transit trips actually begin at a bus stop. We're working to establish a formulaic program for delivering benches and shelters. We've also established a community mobility hub program, and this would be street level stations, something in between a bus stop and our transit centers that really try and bridge that gap between transit, the community, and the built environment around us. We're working with our general engineering contractor, WSP, on design for those mobility hubs right now. We anticipate coming to this commission with a contract approval in summer of 2021. So that is just an update on some of those customer-focused investments that are an essential part of Metro Transit's programs for building back better, attracting customers to the transit system. Each time we come together, we'll provide you with more updates and new projects and updates on our progress. We're working very closely with our marketing communications team on messaging that's intended to correspond with each phase of pandemic recovery, as well as the capital and operating programs that we're offering. Commissioners, last week, I think you saw a short film that was produced in partnership between marketing and Once Films. And I think it does a great job of honoring the essential workers we've been carrying this past year, as well as those frontline team members that are showing up and doing the hard work every day. So look for more marketing opportunities and brand affinity strategies like that moving forward. Now, it's been a very difficult year, and I don't want to underscore the significance of the economic impacts and the ridership impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. But we really, truly see this as an opportunity for us to build back better, to refocus our service and our capital programs, our communication and marketing strategies, and also to deepen our partnerships and relationships with the communities and the institutions that we serve. We've embarked on a multi-year process. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get there, but I'm very optimistic about the future ahead of us. And I know that the team is poised to deliver the service of the future. Now, are there any comments or questions on moving beyond pandemic into recovery?
Jessica, I got a couple of questions on the, you talk about the fare collection program. And I know sometime back we talked about the smart card program, the failure of that. Has there been any more work done on that, on how that did and the cost that was and how that's going to compare what we're talking about later on this year that you're going to be coming with us?
So Commissioner, we're continuing to utilize the Gateway Card program, and we will until we actually have a replacement for that. But our experience with Gateway Card, just as our recent 2 pilot programs with mobile ticketing, is certainly informing our strategy moving forward. And in fact, I think one of the greatest lessons learned from Gateway Card, which we did incorporate into the 2 mobile ticketing pilots, is we're defining that space where Metro is actually developing the software and the back-end integration versus requiring our partners and contractors to perform that development and integration. And this is also the way the market is moving. These opportunities didn't exist 5 years ago, and certainly not 10 years ago when the Smart Card program was in its early stages. I would give you as an example of changes that we've made to our approach. I mentioned earlier that Transit app and Via next month will be able to offer that one-step trip planning, booking, and paying option. We were also able to make one-step trip planning and paying option a requirement for the mobile ticketing pilot that we have in place now. So Transit app and in that instance, Masabi are integrated, and now Transit app and Via are integrated. And so focusing on what we do as opposed to developing a lot of it in-house, which is what we did before, or requiring vendors after awarding contracts to try and integrate, which is what we did with Trapeze and in it during the Smart Card program is a key difference. So we're learning from that, but I also want to remind this commission that the Gateway card does remain in place and is being actively utilized.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to more information on that. And I'm really excited about what you're reporting on, and I understand the development moving forward. But there are projects out there that I know that are still been hanging there for 2 and 3 years, like over here, the bus stop project. And my understanding from talking to my folks that, that's a 3-year project, and it seems like it just continues to drag on. Or the elevator problems that we have at the River Park. I mean, where are we going with this work that's hanging out there? I mean, we're talking about moving into the future, but we've got projects that are still hanging out there for 2 and 3 years.
So Commissioner Simmons, the project, the 2 to 3 year project list that I think that you're referring to from 2018 or 2019, the lion's share of that work has already been complete. There are a couple of projects that remain active and are nearing completion. And we do provide project level updates to St. Clair County Transit District on a regular basis. The part of the frustration with bus stops, and I feel this too, and have been working through this here for the past 15 years, is some of those take time and require easements to actually complete, but we've finished the lion's share of those bus stop improvements. The elevator work at East Riverfront is complete, as you know, but we have had some problems with reliability of those elevators. Some of that was design flaw, and we're working with the contractor to remedy that. And then soon we're embarking on similar repair work for the escalators here in downtown St. Louis, and we recently completed elevator work here at our stations in downtown St. Louis. So the momentum is never as quick as I think we'd like. I am confident, though, that we have the team and the approach in place needed to achieve our goals. We've made significant changes behind the scenes, not only to our team composition and structure, but the way we approach and manage our capital programs, large and small, and we're making progress. You saw 2 contracts earlier today about projects like those rail system projects, coupling those, getting them out on the street, and then knocking them out one at a time is going to be how we're proceeding in the next few years. It's going to be an intensive capital period for the next 5 years, but we're well on the way.
And I appreciate that. My concern is that, and I understand progress, and in the future we have to be planning, being proactive, but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that, so what I would ask that, I know you've referred in the past that you've kept St. Clair County Transit District and Mr. Sharkey updated. I would ask that you provide me a copy with that, if you could, of where we are on those bus stops, how many is still left to do, and if there's a projected time that we're going to be able to see that project completed.
Certainly, Commissioner Simmons, and we'll provide that to all of our Illinois commissioners.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on service recovery or our capital programs?
I just wanted to thank you, Jessica, for your report, and to remind commissioners that there's a lot more information in our board book about this, in the committee operations report book. So you can delve into some of the things that Jessica wasn't able to go into a lot of detail on. And then, of course, we'll have another report at the board meeting next month on operations. Any other comments or questions before that was for informational purposes only? Hearing none, I'm going to move on. Talby, do you have a president's report for us?
A very brief one, Chair. So I simply want to mention that we have just about completed the boardroom upgrades. So for instance, we are doing upgrades to the board room so that we can better accommodate a hybrid system where some of you can be still remote at your discretion, but there's also opportunities for the public to participate in the meeting. We're trying to move to that as we slowly move out of the post-pandemic. And so we're going to try to start that next at the full board meeting in April, and I'm very excited about it. but it'll just provide a better opportunity for the public to interact and yet still have the commissioners. You will have the option to either still phone in, so kind of a hybrid type board meeting that enhances the public experience. So excited about that. Of course, we're always condensed on that operations report. I asked Jessica to try to keep it brief, but still provide the necessary information. So I encourage you that if there's additional details you want to see about that operations report, we are always ready to respond. Any discussions, I'm happy to have any side discussions, or of course, I encourage staff, including Jessica Meffer-Miller and Jessica Gershman, to talk about those specific issues. They're very important. They're worth talking about. If you want to have a side conversation on anything, please, I encourage you to do so. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Is there any unscheduled business? Toby?
There is none. There is none. Thank you.
Thank you. Myra, could you call the dates for the future meetings, please?
Yes, the next Board of Commissioners meeting will be held on Friday, April 23rd at 8:30 a.m. The next Audit and Finance and Administration Committee meeting will be held on Friday, March 21st at 8:30 a.m., followed by the Operations Committee meeting at 9:30 on May 21st.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So our next board meeting is next week or in 2 weeks. Toby, did you anticipate that people would be back in the boardroom then?
You can have that option. I think what we'll do really, Chair, is that staff. So we're trying to do at staff level is kind of trying a soft rollout. So no, I don't anticipate commissioners, but we'll just so that you're not when you see different camera angles, we want to start testing the system. So it's likely that I'll be sitting there with a huge amount of distance between us, and we're just going to start. So to answer your question briefly, no, we don't anticipate commissioners. It's too soon for that, but we are moving to what our post-pandemic so that we can get the public back engaged as quickly as possible.
So what I would say about the meeting in 2 weeks is I would strongly encourage you to limit to just staff and not invite the public back to your boardroom yet, especially if there aren't going to be commissioners there yet. I'm just offering that because I think it's too soon. So you know,
yes.
I don't.
What if you're fully vaccinated though?
Yeah. Well, there's
okay.
I agree, but there's a lot of people on this call that are probably vaccinated and still aren't back in their workplaces.
And
all right, well,
Madam Chair, the benefit of the new system is that it would still allow people to make their personal choice as to attend the meeting, including commissioners, and there would be an easier entry point for public. So for instance, someone who wanted to appear and still be at a podium with social distanced and temperature screening within that large area. We're not ready to open it to the public yet. I just wanted to warn you that we're going to start testing the system to be sure that it works. As you know, this technology is challenging, but it'll allow us to have a hybrid system so that individual commissioners can still and see, for instance, the public, whether they either come in physically or whether they come in remotely. So that's the benefit of the system, is that it is a hybrid. It gets both done. For instance, one of the things that the commission that you as commissioners mention is that there are some members of the public who do not have computer access as easily as many of us do on the line. And I am concerned about that obligation that we have under Title VI of our federal guidelines, and very soon we need to have that capability. Yet commissioners may still make the choice to be remote. So essentially the new system will allow an individual, for instance, who may be taking an early morning bus route, who doesn't have computer access, to come to headquarters and testify at a podium adequately and let you know what their thoughts are. And yet you could still be remote. So it's I think a strong hybrid system, and that's really the goal, is to get as in a phased way back to that. We're not ready yet. You're correct. But I just wanted to warn you that we have made progress, and we're going to start testing the system at our next full board meeting.
All right, I would ask that you share that with the board before you do that, please.
I sure will. Thank you.
Since this is the first we're hearing about it.
Okay. Yes, I'll be happy to.
I just wanted to suggest that if we don't need to go in executive session unless there is any kind of an issue with the approval of the Operations Committee executive session meeting minutes from January 22nd. If people have no changes or additions or deletions from that document, we can stay in open meeting and approve those minutes. If any of the members of the committee want to change those, we can do that in executive session. Hearing none, we will not go into executive session, but I need a motion to approve the minutes of the January 22nd, 2021 Operations Committee executive session as presented as a closed record.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Simmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Winmiller,
Aye.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I think that concludes our meeting, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.